Have you ever just stared at those Shopify numbers? Like your conversion rates.
Yeah.
They're just taunting you, right? Not quite where you want them to be. Or those abandoned carts. What was the deal with those? Ever wish you could, see what your customers are actually doing?
Oh, tell me about it. It's like the ultimate dream for any online store owner. I mean, we've got data coming out of our ears, but actually figuring out why customers do what they do can feel like you're just throwing darts in the dark.
Totally. Well, get ready for some serious insight, because today we are diving deep into session recording. It's like having X-ray vision for your Shopify store.
Exactly. If you haven't encountered it yet, session recording is essentially like having this invisible observer for every single visitor who lands on your site. It captures everything, their mouse movements, every click, how far they scroll down, what they type into forms. You get a complete visual replay of their journey.
So it's not just about seeing, the hotspots where people are clicking, like you might with a heat map, right? This is different.
It is. Heat maps give you the big picture, the popular areas. Session recording shows you the individual paths people are taking. Think of it this way. A heat map is like seeing a crowd gathered in a square. Session recording is watching what each person in that crowd is actually doing, experiencing.
That makes a lot of sense. And we're drawing this insight from some really interesting material. Today, we're diving into session recording, seeing your Shopify store through the customer's eyes, the Conversion Bible by Mohammed Tufik Yapan, published just recently in March 2025.
Our mission today is to really demystify this technology for you, the listener. We want you to walk away understanding not just how it works, but why it's so incredibly valuable for anyone running a Shopify store, what kind of solutions are out there, and how to actually put it into practice.
And most importantly, how to use session recording to get those actionable insights that will actually make your store perform better, ultimately leading to more conversions, all without drowning in technical jargon. It's fascinating to think about how this technology has evolved. It used to have this kind of Big Brother feel to it, didn't it?
Yeah, it definitely did. Privacy concerns were a big deal early on, and sometimes the focus was more on monitoring than on understanding.
But now it's all about using this technology to make the user experience better, to actually empathize with your customers so you can better serve them. It's a complete shift in perspective.
Absolutely. That's where the real value lies. Think about it. Traditional analytics tells you the what. Like 50% of visitors left this specific page. But session recording, it tells you the why. Maybe they couldn't find a crucial bit of information, or a button wasn't working properly, or the layout was just plain confusing.
And when you add in the psychological aspect, it gets even more interesting. You can literally see someone's mouse hovering over a price, maybe hesitating. Or maybe they're trying to click on something that's not clickable. Those subtle cues, those are the friction points that just numbers can't tell you about.
It's amazing what you can pick up on, that little cursor twitching back and forth over a button, or rapid scrolling as someone frantically searches for something. It gives you this really visceral sense of what their experience is like in that moment.
Okay, so we've got a good idea of what session recording can reveal, but let's get a little more technical. How does it actually capture all of this user activity? What's the magic behind the curtain?
It all starts with a tiny piece of JavaScript code. You integrate this into your Shopify store's theme. Then, whenever someone visits your site, that script kicks in and starts quietly tracking everything they do in real time. Every mouse click, the path their cursor takes across the screen, how far down they scroll, anything they type into forms. Think of it like a digital shadow, following their every move within your store.
So it's leaving a trail of digital breadcrumbs, basically, for their entire visit.
Exactly. And all of these actions, the clicks, the scrolls, the inputs, they're all securely stored, usually on the session recording provider servers. Then later on, you can log into their platform and you can basically hit play on these events. You watch the entire session unfold step by step, almost as if you were looking over their shoulder in real time.
That's so cool. And the article we're looking at actually breaks down the specific kinds of interactions that these recordings typically capture, right?
Yeah. The core elements are clicks, obviously, that tells you which links, buttons, images people are actually paying attention to. Then you have scrolls, which show you how much of your content people are actually seeing. Mouse movements can be surprisingly revealing. You can see where people are hovering. Maybe they're interested in something, or maybe they're confused. And then form inputs, you can see what people are actually typing, which fields they're skipping, where they might be getting stuck.
It's amazing what you can learn from seemingly small actions. The article really makes a point of contrasting this with traditional web analytics. Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. Think about Google Analytics, for example. It gives you a fantastic overview, total page views, bounce rates, where your traffic is coming from. It might tell you that, say, 50% of people left a specific product page, but it doesn't tell you why. That's the key question. Session recording fills in that gap. You actually get to see what those users did on the page before they bounced. Was the page loading slowly? Was the important information buried too far down? Was the call to action weak?
So analytics gives you the what, and session recording gives you the why behind those numbers.
Exactly. And that brings us to the psychology of observational customer research, which the article actually gets into.
This is the part that really fascinates me. It's not just about dry data points. It's about understanding how people actually behave online.
Precisely. And when you watch these recordings, you start to pick up on these patterns of, say, hesitation, frustration, maybe even confusion. Like if someone keeps clicking on an image that's not a link, that's a usability issue that no amount of data could reveal. You see them struggling with a particular field in your checkout form or abandoning their cart right after they see the shipping costs. It makes the data come alive, you know? It helps you really understand what it's like to be in your customer's shoes.
It's almost like getting a glimpse into their unspoken thoughts, their frustrations. Now, let's talk technicalities. How do these recording scripts actually integrate with a Shopify store? Is it a big headache for the average store owner?
Actually, for most Shopify users, it's pretty straightforward. Like you mentioned, most session recording tools use that little snippet of JavaScript. You'll either paste it directly into your store's theme.liquid file, which is the basic layout template for your Shopify theme, or even easier, you just install an app from the Shopify App Store. A lot of those apps handle the script part for you automatically.
That sounds way less intimidating than having to mess around with website code.
It is. But the article does make a good point. You want to make sure that this script doesn't slow down your website. A slow website is a frustrating website, and it can actually hurt your search rankings. Luckily, most session recording providers are aware of this, and they optimize their scripts to be as lightweight as possible, so there's minimal impact on your site's performance.
That's a big relief. No one wants a slow website just for some insights.
Yeah.
So we know what session recording is. We know the basics of how it works. Let's talk about the real value proposition here. Why is this so beneficial for Shopify businesses? How can it affect their bottom line?
This is where things get really interesting. The article highlights several areas where session recording insights can have a real impact. One of the biggest is conversion rate optimization. If you can see where people are getting stuck, where they're getting confused during the buying process, you can fix those specific issues. Sometimes even tiny tweaks, like clearer button labels or streamlining your checkout process, can make a big difference in your conversion rates.
It's like plugging those leaks in your sales funnel, right?
Exactly. And then there's cart abandonment. That's a big one. If you see people consistently bailing out at a particular point in checkout, session recording can show you why. Maybe they get hit with unexpected shipping costs, or the form asks for too much information. Tweaking that specific part of the process, like by offering more transparent shipping options or simplifying the form, can directly reduce cart abandonment and recover those lost sales.
Now, what about the cost? Is this going to break the bank for a Shopify store owner?
The article talks about the return on investment, and it can be pretty impressive. Most session recording tools do come with a subscription fee, but the insights you gain can often pay for themselves very quickly. Think about the potential increase in revenue from those higher conversion rates and fewer abandoned carts. When you weigh the cost of the tool against those potential gains, it often makes a lot of sense financially. It's an investment in understanding your customers, which is always a good investment.
It's like having a powerful diagnostic tool specifically for your business. How does this stack up against traditional user research methods like focus groups?
Well, traditional methods can be expensive and time-consuming. You have to recruit people, find a location. It's a whole thing. Session recording, on the other hand, lets you observe real user behavior right there in your store's natural habitat, and it's way more scalable. You're getting direct insights from a much bigger, more representative sample of your actual customer base.
That's a huge advantage, especially for smaller businesses who might not have the resources for those elaborate research methods. The article also points out that the needs of a small business might be different from the needs of a larger enterprise. How does that play out with session recording?
Smaller stores might find that a basic recording plan, which tends to be more affordable, is all they need to catch those major usability issues. They might mainly focus on watching recordings of people who didn't complete a purchase to figure out where they dropped off. Larger businesses, on the other hand, might need those more advanced features, things like sophisticated segmentation options so they can analyze the behavior of different customer groups, or team collaboration tools. The good news is that there's a whole range of session recording solutions out there, so you can find something that fits your business size and your specific needs.
And it's not just about fixing problems, right? The article also talks about the long-term benefits of, systematically analyzing these recordings.
Right. If you make it a habit to watch and analyze user sessions regularly, you start to develop this deeper understanding of your customers' needs, their pain points, what they like. And over time, that translates into a continuously improving store, a better user experience, happier, more loyal customers. It's all about putting the customer at the center of your e-commerce strategy.
So we've got the what, the why covered. Let's get into the how. What kinds of session recording solutions are out there for Shopify merchants?
The article gives a good overview of the different technologies. Most of the tools you'll find for Shopify are browser-based. Like we talked about, they use that little JavaScript snippet to track actions right in the user's browser. Server-side recording, where things are tracked on the server itself, that's less common for this kind of thing, usually used in more technical scenarios.
And when it comes to these browser-based scripts, are there different approaches Shopify owners should know about?
Yeah, the article talks about script-based implementation. That's the one where you add the JavaScript snippet. It's usually pretty simple, but you need to be aware of how it might affect your site's loading speed. That's why, again, it's crucial to choose a reputable provider with an optimized, lightweight script that won't slow your site down.
Makes sense. And what about the scope of the recording? Do all these tools record everything that happens on a page all the time?
Not necessarily. Some tools offer full page recording. They capture every single interaction across the entire page. Others might offer element-specific recording, where you choose to track specific areas like a particular form or a product image gallery. Full page gives you the most complete picture, but it can also mean a lot more data to deal with.
Right, more data isn't always better, especially if it's too much to analyze. The article also mentions a difference between real-time analysis and more aggregated historical analysis.
Yeah, with real-time recording, you can actually watch sessions as they're happening live. That can be useful in specific situations like during a big product launch or a flash sale where you want to spot any usability problems right away. But for most optimization work, aggregated analysis is more common and often more useful. You collect data over a set period and then look for overall trends and patterns across a lot of recordings.
And since so much online shopping happens on phones these days, are there any specific considerations for mobile Shopify stores?
Absolutely. Mobile users behave very differently from desktop users. Some session recording tools have specialized mobile replays designed to capture touchscreen interactions like taps, swipes, pinch to zoom. That's really important for finding usability issues that are specific to mobile, like buttons that are too small to tap easily or page layouts that don't adjust well to different screen sizes.
So, bottom line, when a Shopify merchant is choosing a session recording solution, they need to think about the potential impact on their website's performance.
Definitely. Like the article says, almost all session recording tools will add some load time to your site. The trick is to find solutions that are built to minimize that impact. A lot of providers use techniques like data compression and lazy loading, where the recording script only loads after the main content of the page is already loaded. This makes sure your visitors have a smooth experience right from the start.
Okay, so we've talked about the technology and what to look for in a good tool. Now let's talk about some specific session recording apps that are popular with Shopify merchants. The article mentions a few, right?
Yeah. One that stands out is Replay Bear by Conversion Bear. It's known for its really tight integration with Shopify. It offers features like real-time replays, integrated heat maps, and a really user-friendly dashboard, all designed specifically for Shopify users.
Heat maps and session recording together. That sounds like a really powerful combination for visual analysis.
It is. Another one mentioned is Mida. Heat map, replay, and record. It's known for its robust reporting features. You can see the general areas of interest on your pages, that's the heat map part, and then dive into individual user journeys to see how those interactions played out.
And what about options for smaller businesses or those who are just dipping their toes into session recording? Are there any affordable choices?
Definitely. Propel Replays is highlighted for having a free plan specifically for smaller Shopify stores. It's a great way to try out session recording without committing to a paid plan, and they have paid plans with more features for larger merchants as they grow.
That's great. It's good to have options for different budgets. What about Lucky Orange? I've heard that name a lot in the context of website analytics.
Yeah, Lucky Orange is a pretty well-known tool. It has a whole bunch of features, including session replays, heat maps, even live chat functionality. And it integrates really well with Shopify. The article also mentions Better Replay and some other free options, but they might have some limitations in terms of how many sessions you can record or the advanced features you get, but there's still a decent place to start for some merchants.
So when Shopify store owners are comparing all these different session recording tools, what should they be paying attention to? What are the key things to consider, according to the article?
The user interface is really important. How easy is the dashboard to use? Can you quickly find the insights you need? You also want to consider integrations. Does the tool work with the other tools you're already using, like Google Analytics? That's really helpful for getting a complete picture of your customer behavior. And then there's pricing. It varies a lot depending on how many recordings you need per month, data storage limits, and the extra features you want, like custom tagging or segmentation.
And the installation process, right?
Yeah.
How complex is it to actually set up the tool?
That's definitely another factor. Luckily, most session recording apps for Shopify are pretty easy to install, even if you're not super tech savvy. You usually just install the app directly through the Shopify App Store, and it handles most of the technical setup behind the scenes. Some apps might require you to paste a little snippet of JavaScript code into your theme files, but the app will usually walk you through it step by step. You don't need to be a coding whiz unless you're doing something really custom or specific.
Okay, so you've picked a tool and you're ready to install it. What are the actual steps involved in getting it up and running on your Shopify store?
First things first, you'll need administrative access to your Shopify store to be able to install apps or change the theme code. Most session recording solutions provide really clear instructions, and some even have set up wizards that guide you through the whole process.
And where does the tracking script go exactly? Does it matter where it's placed within the website code?
It does. The article recommends placing the script right at the end of the body tag in your theme.liquid file if you're installing it manually. That way, the main content of your page loads first, so the script doesn't slow things down for your visitors. Some Shopify apps handle this placement for you automatically, which is definitely a bonus.
Performance, performance, performance. Any other tips for minimizing any slowdown from that recording script?
Yeah, some of the more advanced session recording apps use a technique called lazy loading. This basically means that the recording script only loads after the initial content of the page is visible in the user's browser. This can be a big help, especially for stores with a lot of traffic where even tiny delays can make a difference. And for really high traffic stores, the article also suggests thinking about data sampling. Instead of recording every single visitor, you could record a smaller representative group. This can help manage data storage costs and make sure you're focusing on a statistically significant sample for your analysis.
That's a clever way to manage the data load. Now, what happens when you update your Shopify theme? Could that affect the session recording tracking?
That's a good point. If you added the tracking script manually, you need to make sure it's still there after you update your theme or switch to a new one. Theme updates can sometimes overwrite custom code. But if you're using a Shopify app for session recording, the app developers usually handle those updates to make sure everything keeps working smoothly.
So less to worry about. Once you've installed everything, how do you know it's actually working? How do you check that it's recording the data properly?
The article recommends testing everything right after installation. Use different web browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and try it out on different devices. Your computer, your phone, a tablet. Make sure the recording is working consistently across all platforms. Most session recording dashboards will also let you view test sessions, so you can see if the key actions like clicks, scrolls, form inputs are being tracked correctly as you interact with your store. If you see anything weird like missing data, you'll need to go back and check your installation steps or look at the documentation for your session recording tool.
Okay, so we've got the technical stuff sorted. Now let's talk about something super important, privacy and compliance. What do Shopify merchants need to know about using session recording legally and ethically?
This is absolutely crucial. The article really stresses the importance of following global privacy regulations like GDPR, that's for customers in the European Union, and CCPA for residents of California. These regulations have strict rules about collecting, storing, and using personal data from website visitors. If you don't comply, you could face big fines, legal trouble, and even damage your reputation.
So what are the practical steps Shopify merchants can take to make sure they're following the rules when they're using session recording?
Well, one of the most important things is getting informed consent from users. Depending on where your customers are located, you might be legally required to tell them that their sessions are being recorded and get their permission. You can usually do this with a cookie banner or a clear notice in your privacy policy. Another critical aspect is data masking. Most session or recording tools have features that automatically hide sensitive information, like credit card numbers or personal details that people enter into forms. That way, this data is never stored in the recordings. It's up to you, as the store owner, to make sure these features are turned on and configured correctly.
Transparency is key here, right?
Absolutely. Make sure your website's privacy policy clearly states that you're using session recordings, what kind of data you're collecting, why you're doing it, for example, to improve user experience and find usability issues, and how you're protecting that data. A transparent privacy policy builds trust with your customers. You also need to set clear rules for how long you'll keep the recorded session data and make sure you have a safe and secure way to delete old data following privacy regulations and your own internal policies.
It's not just about following the letter of the law, is it? There's an ethical aspect to this as well.
You're right. Even if something is technically legal, you always want to think about the ethics of recording user behavior. The article recommends avoiding the capture of any personal or sensitive content without getting explicit consent from the user, and to always be mindful of building and maintaining customer trust. Frame the use of session recordings as a way to make their experience better, to fix any problems they might encounter, not just as a way to monitor them.
So by being open with your users, by taking steps to protect their privacy with data masking and secure data handling, you can collect this valuable behavioral data in an ethical and responsible way. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about what you actually do with all of these recorded sessions. What kind of insights can Shopify merchants realistically expect to get from analyzing this data?
The article outlines a bunch of potential insights. One of the most basic but valuable ones is the ability to analyze navigation patterns. By watching how users move from page to page, you can see the most common paths they take, as well as any unexpected detours or places where they seem to get lost or confused. This helps you optimize your site's structure and make sure your internal linking is effective. For example, you might notice that people are constantly going back to the homepage from a specific product category page. That could mean your category structure or filters aren't intuitive enough.
So you can actually see if your website's navigation is truly user-friendly.
Exactly. And you can also pinpoint those specific friction points, those usability issues that are making life difficult for your customers. Things like rage clicks, where someone keeps clicking the same thing over and over because it's not working or constantly going back and forth between pages. These are often signs of a design flaw or something confusing on the page. You can also use session recordings to find technical bugs or browser compatibility problems that might be affecting some users. For example, you might see someone click a button and nothing happens. That could be a JavaScript error specific to their browser.
That's really useful for quality assurance. What about online forums? Those can be such a pain point for users.
Session recordings are great for understanding how people fill out forms and figuring out exactly where they give up. You can see which fields they hesitate on, which ones they skip, and at what point they decide to just abandon the whole thing. This data is gold for making your forms shorter, less intimidating, and more user-friendly, so more people actually complete them.
And what about seeing how people are engaging with your content?
The article talks about scroll depth analysis. By watching recordings, you can see how far down the page people are scrolling. This tells you whether they're actually seeing that important content further down, or if they're bouncing before they even get to it. You might need to rethink the placement of key information or make your content more concise and scannable.
Makes sense. And what about calls to action? How effective are they at actually getting people to do what you want them to do?
Session recording lets you see this directly. Are people noticing your calls to action? Are they clicking on them? If people are consistently ignoring a Buy Now button, the recording might show you that it's poorly placed, it doesn't stand out visually, or maybe the surrounding content isn't leading people towards that action.
Right. And of course, we can't forget about mobile.
Absolutely. Especially these days. Session recording is crucial for finding mobile-specific issues. Are users having trouble with pop-ups on small screens? Are the page layouts awkward for touch input? This can tell you if your website needs some work to make it more mobile-friendly.
So it's really like getting a behind-the-scenes look at the entire shopping experience. As you watch these recordings, what kind of common user behavior patterns start to emerge?
You start to notice certain things that pop up again and again. You'll see signs of navigation confusion, like people clicking on your store's logo expecting to go back to the home page, or constantly opening and closing the menu looking for something specific that's not easy to find. You'll also see hesitation in the checkout process. Like maybe someone's mouse hovers over the add to cart button for a long time. That could mean they're not sure about something, like the product details or the shipping costs.
And what about those abandoned carts? Can session recording shed any light on why those happen?
Definitely. You'll often see clear signs that someone's about to abandon their cart. Maybe they see a long, complicated form at checkout and immediately back out. Or they see the final shipping costs and decide it's not worth it. You also might see people carefully comparing multiple products, jumping back and forth between pages that tells you they need more information to make a decision. Maybe you need to improve your product descriptions, images, or comparison tools.
It's like you're a fly on the wall observing their thought process.
Right. You might also see patterns in how people interact with trust indicators on your site, things like security badges, customer reviews, return policy information. If people are consistently scrolling down to find those things before they buy anything, that tells you how important it is to make that information really visible and easy to access. And lastly, you'll definitely see differences in how people behave on desktop versus mobile. Desktop users tend to be more thorough, opening multiple tabs, doing more research, while mobile shoppers want quick answers and a streamlined checkout.
Okay, so you've got all these recordings. How do you actually make sense of all this data? It seems like it could be pretty overwhelming.
The article talks about the importance of having a structured approach to analysis. Don't just watch recordings randomly, group them by user segments like new visitors versus returning customers, or by stages in your conversion funnel, like people who looked at a specific product versus those who started checkout. That way, you can look for specific behaviors within each group.
So a focused approach is key.
Absolutely. You also want to use a mix of qualitative and quantitative data. Quantitative data might be things like how many people clicked a certain button or the average scroll depth on a page. Qualitative insights come from actually watching the recordings and seeing how people behave. Combine those two approaches, and you get a much richer understanding. And don't forget about sample size. Don't make big decisions based on just a few recordings. Look for consistent patterns across a decent number of sessions to be sure you're seeing something meaningful.
It sounds like user segmentation is a really powerful way to make the analysis more manageable.
It is. Try filtering your recordings by device type. Are they on desktop or mobile? Where did they come from? Organic search, social media, a paid ad. You can even filter by location if that's relevant for your business. People coming from different sources or using different devices might behave very differently, and they might run into different problems on your site. And once you've found some potential areas for improvement, the article recommends prioritizing them based on how much they might affect your key business metrics. Focus on fixing the problems that are likely to have the biggest positive impact on your conversion rates, your average order value, or other important KPIs.
So tackle the big leagues first. Makes sense.
Right. Then you can start developing hypotheses. Turn your observations into testable ideas. For example, if you see people abandoning checkout when they see the shipping costs, your hypothesis might be, if we offer free shipping over a certain amount, more people will complete their purchase. Then, translate those ideas into concrete action steps. Document each problem, the proposed solution, how important it is, and who's responsible for fixing it.
That sounds like a very systematic way to turn observations into actual website improvements. Now, let's get practical. How can session recording be used to optimize those key elements of a Shopify store that have the biggest impact on conversions? What are some concrete examples?
The article has some great examples. Let's start with the homepage. You can use session recording to see how people scroll through your homepage, which sections they interact with, whether they're clicking on your banners or featured products. If a key part of your homepage is being ignored, you might need to move it up higher or make it more visually appealing. For navigation, session recording can show you where people are getting lost or confused trying to find what they're looking for. Restructuring your menu or making your labels clearer can make a big difference.
Because if people can't find what they want, they're just going to leave. What about product pages? They're obviously super important for driving sales.
For product pages, watch to see if people are actually reading your descriptions, looking at all the product images, or watching any videos you have. If they're not, you might need to change the layout of your page, add more compelling visuals, or highlight the key benefits more effectively. For the shopping cart, if you see people constantly adjusting quantities or going back and forth to the product page, it might mean they're confused about something like colors, sizes, or shipping options. Make those things clearer, and you might reduce cart abandonment.
Checkout is another notorious area for drop-offs.
Totally. For checkout optimization, look for the specific point where people tend to give up. Is it after entering their shipping info? When they see the payment options? Session recording can show you exactly where the problem is, so you can focus on simplifying that step, making the instructions clearer, or addressing any concerns or hesitations. The article also mentions checking your mobile responsiveness. On mobile devices, session recordings can show you if people are struggling with the layout, having to pinch and zoom a lot. That's a sign that you need to optimize your design for smaller screens and touch input. And for any forms you have on your site, contact forms, newsletter signups, checkout forms, you can see which fields are causing the most trouble, leading to incomplete submissions. Long, complicated forms are a conversion killer, and session recordings can give you the evidence you need to simplify them.
These are all really practical examples of how session recording can lead to actual improvements. Now, the article also talks about the value of using session recordings with other analytics tools that Shopify merchants are probably already using. How can you combine these different data sources to get an even better understanding of your customers?
Combining the broad data you get from a tool like Google Analytics with the detailed insights from session recordings is really powerful. You can start by using Google Analytics to pinpoint areas of your conversion funnel where a lot of people are dropping off or where the conversion rate is low. Then you can watch the session recordings of those specific users to see what actually happened. It's like adding the human element to your data analysis. You're not just looking at numbers, you're seeing the real story behind them.
So analytics points to the problem, and session recording tells you what's causing it.
Exactly. Session recordings can also make A/B testing way more effective. When you're testing different versions of a page or a button, watching recordings can tell you so much more than just looking at the conversion rates. You can see which layout feels more intuitive, where people are looking, which call to action is more engaging. The article also mentions the synergy between heat maps and session recordings. Heat maps show you the popular areas on a page, while recordings let you see the individual journeys that led to those interactions. Together, they paint a really complete picture of user behavior.
It's like zooming in from a wide-angle view to a close-up.
Exactly. You can also use session recording to map the entire customer journey from start to finish, from when they land on your site to when they buy something or abandon their cart. This can help you optimize the entire experience, not just individual elements. By linking your website's performance data with what you see in session recordings, you can also start to understand which user actions are most likely to lead to a purchase and which ones usually lead to abandonment. Some advanced session recording tools even let you create dashboards that combine heat maps, funnel data, and session replays all in one place. And if you're running marketing campaigns, you can often track sessions from those specific campaigns to see how those visitors behave and if they're different from visitors coming from other sources. This can help you fine-tune